This week in global news, we'll talk about everything from the 62nd Munich Security Conference to what's going on with support for Iran, semiconductors in South Korea, and fuel in Cuba. Multiple countries across the Southern Hemisphere, including Argentina, Chile, Australia, and South Africa, have reported extreme heat and widespread wildfire outbreaks this week. In January, record-setting heat blasted Australia while continuing into February. Catastrophic wildfires set Argentina's Patagonia ablaze, killing 21 in coastal towns in Chile. In addition, South Africa has been experiencing its worst wildfires in years. As we transition into a neutral or even El Nino phase, we'll expect the incidence of extreme heat events around the world to be further amplified, according to climate scientist Theodore Keeping of Imperial College in London. French President Emmanuel Macron says Europe is faced with the world of disarray, accurately citing the fact that they are being economically and influentially squeezed by a high-tech, low-cost China to the east, relentlessly becoming more and more fixed within world economies, and an unpredictable, though seemingly isolationist West in America. Faced with the idea of America potentially not being the military crutch they have been seen as for decades, Macron is pushing for strategic autonomy in Europe. Macron is putting his wallet where his mouth is and has increased defense spending by $8 billion in 2026, funding nuclear-powered attack submarine, 362 armored vehicles, and Aster surface-to-air missiles. World leaders, diplomats, and defense officials are gathering this week in Munich for the annual Security Summit. The Munich Securities Report executive summary provides us with a glimpse of what we're expected to see at the conference. Starting off with a damning statement, in all G7 countries surveyed for the Munich Security Index 2026, only a tiny proportion of respondents say their current government's policies will make future generations better off. We can clearly understand that the tone is different than that of the World Economic Forum in Davos. Next, it aims at what it calls bulldozer politics of the United States, and that policies in Europe and in Indo-Pacific are moving away from a Pax Americana. It continues to talk about the effects of the Russian war of aggression, China's war of economic destabilization, and the impact on global trade that tariffs have caused. South Korea has announced the expansion of export controls on advanced semiconductor components, tightening restrictions on certain high-end chip technologies that could be sold abroad. The move is intended to protect key industries from strategic competition, especially concerning export to China and other markets tied with rival tech ecosystems. With semiconductors underpinning everything from AI servers to advanced weaponry, this is more than just a trade decision at this point. It's a method that the West is using to prepare for a future where they lose access to Taiwan and that major semiconductor industry. Consistently ranking as the world's second largest manufacturer by capacity after Taiwan and holding approximately 17 to 20% of global capacity, dominated by Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix, Korea holds a commanding 60.5% of the current very expensive global memory market. On February 14th, a global day of action has been organized by supporters of the Iranian protesters. Many Iranian people are protesting the Islamic regime in Iran, leading to over 30,000 casualties in one of the worst crackdowns on a populace in recorded history. Now, protest leaders from around the world, specifically in Munich, Los Angeles, and Toronto, are organizing a worldwide day of action in support of protesters inside of Iran to hopefully bring a light to the continued devastation of the Iranian people. The Day of Action protest has 6 clear demands: dismantle the regime's machinery of repression and protect the people of Iran, cut off the regime's financial lifelines in full, ensure free internet and communications for the people of Iran, expel the regime's diplomats and prosecute its criminals, immediate release of all of the political prisoners, prepare to recognize a legitimate transitional government to lead Iran towards democracy. It is important to note that these protests are organized by Reza Pahlavi, the son of the former monarch of Iran. Major Canadian airlines have suspended service to Cuba as the Caribbean country faces a worsening energy crisis amid a U.S. blockade of oil. Air Canada, WestJet, and Air Transat each said on Monday that they were canceling flights to Cuba, citing a shortage of aviation fuel. Cuba, who has long been propped up by Venezuelan oil since a landmark deal in 2000 between Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez, where Venezuela agreed to supply roughly one-third of Cuba's oil needs at discounted prices and favorable financing, has been crumbling as the Venezuelan taps have been slowly closing, and now, after U.S. actions in the country, have practically ceased. This is a meaningful shift, and stacked with those U.S. actions, as well as protests in Iran, India and Germany moving away from Russian oil, are all severely impacting the Russian economy. Those are 6 stories that can't be missed this week. Thank you for watching, and subscribe to Engines of Change for more.